Cosmic True Slasher Review.
It was really just something that I wanted you to be able to speak on and let people know. And this is another thing as well that I've seen a lot of, and I've been spent probably more time than I'm proud of arguing with people over, when Vecna was announced, there was a lot of Stranger Things stuff that was brought up. And I personally think it's being a big fan of movies, how anyone is mad about source material is just something my brain can't comprehend. And I just wanted to give you a chance to speak on, that disconnect there to where they're getting something that was based on and something that was different.
I'm super annoying to argue with, according to my friends, because I tend to very easily put myself in the other position, and I usually am very reluctant to dig my heels in a position because I know I've been wrong so many times. So I try to be a little malleable about the way I talk about these things. But like source material, you're right. It is the true thing. In this case, Vecna is from Dungeons and Dragons. There are no two ways about it.
Right.
But there is a character called Vecna in Stranger Things, and it's a great character. He's called Vecna because that's what the kids call him, because that's their reference point. He doesn't call himself Vecna. That's not his name. He's not a lich. He's not an undead sorcerer. That's not it, right? It's not the same character. It's just a character that's got that nickname in a different format. That being said, I understand that for many people out there, the only time that they heard that name, especially people maybe of a different generation, the only time that they've heard that name was in relation to Stranger Things, which is also in our game. So it's absolutely understandable that they would jump to that conclusion and therefore might experience disappointment because that's not what they thought was going to happen. I totally get that. And to me, it's not a function of being the true Vecna or no, you should know better. It's the fact that this is what we decided to do. There's no denying that Vecna is part of Dungeons and Dragons, and it was certainly not our intention to sort of pull the rug from under them or mislead anybody in thinking that it was going to be something when it's not. Absolutely not. And it's to be absolutely transparent in this, it would never prevent us to do a chapter and add the Vecna character from Stranger Things. These two can live in the same Dead by Daylight world without a problem, right? Because they're not the same thing. It's not like adding a second version of Michael Myers. It's got nothing to do with it.
Well, since you brought it up, that is another thing that I was wondering, if that does it, argument's sake and living in a fantasy land, that does happen. Would that be a situation where Vecna in the game right now would get a legendary skin, or you guys would just go a whole new character?
No, I mean, yeah, this is all theoretical at this point, but
if it
one thing that's very clear is that those are two completely different licenses. They live in different worlds. They are the property of two different entities. Therefore, there's no way in hell we would use a license and put a legendary skin from a different IP on an existing license. That's just not a thing.
Right.
And it would make no sense because Victor Creel, I believe his name is in Stranger Things, doesn't use magic, right? He doesn't summon skeletons. That's not what he does. It would make no sense.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that going around, and trying to explain it to people was tiring. We were talking about it though before you guys hopped in, among other things.
Yep.
But we were talking about the powers of Vecna, and Kat. I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons fan, and I've never played it. I'm new to this. I really don't know anything. I know what Kat has told me throughout the years. Kat, big Dungeons and Dragons fan. So we were talking about the powers of Vecna and being able to come up with powers for him within Dead by Daylight, and also to kind of, because it's a god and all these things. How do you limit that but still make it powerful to function within the game? What was that balance like internally?
Dave would be the best person to answer this kind of thing, but Vecna is the very first character that we introduce that is wearing what I believe is called the mark of the entity. I'm not sure that's the final name we ended up on, but essentially, it's like it is a way for us to take a character that's ridiculously powerful and to sort of restrain it and tone it down so that it fits within the boundaries of Dead by Daylight. So the Vecna, as you see him, the entity has flung him into the world, but also has put a mark on him so that he does not have access to all of his power. He's restrained in this version that you see, so that he is not the demigod that he is in Dungeons and Dragons. He's still himself. He's still extremely powerful, but he does not have access to every single one of his powers in the version you see in Dead by Daylight. The mark of negation, it's very possible that that's the final name.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up, but yeah.
Thank you. But that's the thing. So we had to address that fact because it's you're very correct. He is probably, if you look at the lore around him, or even if you open Dungeons and Dragons and look at the actual stat block for Vecna, it's just he's completely on a different scale. So we had to find a way to sort of tone him down a little bit. Same with the spells, right? The choice of the 4 spells that we gave him, they were chosen because they're very Dungeons and Dragons, but also because they felt like they were the most fun to play with and give you a sensation of power and to be able to sort of play with your prey.
I was going to ask how, when narrowing it down to just 4 spells, like
it was tough. Yeah, but the thing is, like I touched upon it a little bit. Dave didn't want not silly magic, but like fairy magic or whatever you call it, like magic missile. No, but the Flight of the Damned.
Right.
Yes, much more interesting because visually it's appealing. Also, it talks about necromantic arts and it talks about horror, and it was perfect for that. Mage Hand, it's just a classic. We had to put at least one absolutely classic spell in there, and Mage Hand felt like a great way to fill in some of the needs that we have. So every killer needs to be able to interact with pallets, to do this, to do that, and Mage Hand felt like a great way to give him a spin on how he interacts with the world, while showcasing something that is so absolutely core to Dungeons and Dragons. So yeah, these kind of choice that we did. Dispelling Sphere is not a Dungeons and Dragons official spell, for instance. It was a mix between different things, but it felt like it could have been one. And to be fair, Vecna can come up with new spells. If anybody can, he definitely can.